Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome to the Midweek Takeaway. Today we're joined by our friend Colin Bird. How's things, Colin?
Good, thank you. And how's things with you, Chuck? You guys?
Yeah, all good. We've just got back from a road trip in quite a few places. We went to Dublin to see a gold mine, a gold explorer, Conroy, and then we went to see Ben's Creek in West Virginia in the US. So it's been and then we visited a UK client as well. So it's been pretty intense, hasn't it, Kev? Last sort of 10 days.
Yeah, boys on the road trip. It's been good. It's been interesting to see these things in action. And we're looking forward to coming to Africa next few months or October time to see some of your plays as well, Colin.
Yeah, that'll be good. We'll be happy to host you, of course. And those Virginia coal mining districts are very interesting, aren't they?
So not content with how many is it? 1, 2, 3, 4 companies. We now announce, or you announced that you've got a new company. Well, not new, but obviously they were originally a private company that are now trading on the main market or admitted to the main market on the 6th of May. Kendrick Resources. Do you want to introduce listeners to Kendrick Resources, Colin?
Yes, indeed. Kendrick Resources is a Northern European. And as you know, that's not my stomping ground. But there are really good underlying fundamentals why this should be my stomping ground and why it's a good asset for our shareholders. And whilst we're I'll explain why we're in a very good position. Sadly, the war in Ukraine has made that position better because a lot of vanadium comes out of Russia. But I don't want to take any benefit from that sad situation. But the real reality is vanadium is an emerging metal, probably emerging faster than most. Not a lot of good vanadium in the world. A lot of it comes with its challenges. But in terms of battery storage, vanadium is the metal. You know, with the big wind turbines and the solar energy, when the sun goes out, the wind stops, so does the energy. So it's very important nowadays to actually be able to store energy. And vanadium is getting its nose in front in that particular area. Our vanadium is a pretty special vanadium, and it makes a magnetite vanadium. We make a concentrate, which we say in our prospectus. So obviously very well verified. It is probably one of the best magnetite vanadium concentrates on the globe once it's made. So that really figures well. What makes it the best? It's the fact that the uranium is very low and the titanium is very low. But we live in a stage now. This, I guess, I shortchanged what is vanadium, and so I better redress that by saying vanadium. Of course, its main strength is its lightweight compared to its strength. And so also 35 to 50% will be in new cars, new rebuilt bar standards. So vanadium is enjoying a new world, if you like it, a new world, let's call it a renaissance, a new world entry.
Yeah.
And we're in it. And this magnetite that we'll be producing is, as I say, globally the best, or one of the best. You can never say the best. But, I don't want to stop there. We don't want to stop there because the world is changing. And the metal traders don't control everything. And it doesn't matter really which metal you talk about. There's an issue, nickel, cobalt, in terms of supply and guarantee of supply and stability of supply. So increasingly, consumers, end users are going to producers to form deals to guarantee the stability of their supply. And as such, I'm really looking, and the team is looking, we're looking at getting into electrolyte or flakes, whereby you're selling that to the end user. Why would you sell what you claim to be one of the best concentrates in the world for somebody else to get the upside of and cheap operating costs? I don't think that's what we put Kendrick together for. So we may be forming alliances, and then we're already working on that. Projects, those two projects, vanadium, are in Sweden and in Finland. And we've got about 45 million tons in Sweden and about 123 million tons in Finland. Interestingly, the Finland material in the same sequence, the same lithology, if you like, offset has got some PGMs and chrome, which is right up my street. You know, I spent the last 14 years with Jubilee on chrome and PGMs, so I know that space well. And likewise, in Sweden, there's some copper opportunities on the project. So we're really excited about it. There's 168 million tons. There's been a basic conceptual study done that shows this works, but this is not an exploration project. This is essentially metallurgy, scoping, adding value, and placing this in the global vanadium market. And we're blessed with, in actual fact, you know, there wasn't that much interest a year ago and when I started putting this lot together, but now there's a stack of interest. Of course, in Norway, we have those nickel projects, and we've got 4 or 5 nickel projects in not a great area. You know, they're not miles apart from one another. They could be standalone small operations, or they could be operations to deliver to a central plant. All of the projects are open-ended, and in a couple of cases, there's small resources. And a couple of other cases, there's a stack of raw data, drill holes, etc., to be worked through, correlated, digitized, and put in the computer to actually get to an ore resource. So we're in 2 great metals there, vanadium, and I opt on the vanadium because not everybody understands vanadium, but it is the new emerging metal. And of course, nickel, we all know nickel's role, and we all know what happened to nickel a few weeks ago. It's stabilized now, but I think you can enjoy and look forward to $20,000 a ton nickel for the foreseeable future. So that's great. And vanadium it goes up by the day. So nice space to be in, Northern European, in the middle of it all, in the middle of the car makers, in the middle of the EV industry, sophisticated countries which know mining. And quite frankly, this is one that I couldn't resist. And I think our shareholders are going to see an early benefit from the acquisitions that Pursuit made in the early days.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you say, it seems that it's very kind of current with the drive for EV. You know, as you mentioned, vanadium's used in automotive industry and redox flow batteries. You've got the nickel, as you mentioned, used in the lithium ion batteries. And then there's also a mention, I believe, of cobalt in the RNS. So does that indicate that there may be the opportunity to mine cobalt?
There's cobalt in association with the nickel. You wouldn't mine it separately. It'll be in association with the nickel at Stormia and one of the other projects. Yes. So there's cobalt. And I failed to mention in my presentation there that in association with the nickel is, as you say, cobalt. There's also copper. And the copper values are about 50% of the nickel values. And that's a nice mix too. And they're good bedfellows from a processing point of view, not difficult to separate or indeed do a bulk concentrate, whichever route you decide to do.
So what are the plans then? Obviously, you're going to design the exploration and the MET test work. I mean, how long or how imminent is that work going to begin?
That is so imminent that it can't be true. That's the first thing. First of all, is let's increase the mass pull and let's see if we can't improve the concentrate grade. We're actually off thinking, and we're looking at something innovative where we in fact increase the iron where we sell the iron, and then we take the slag and then which is enriched in vanadium, which would prevent us having to use a roaster. So there's an option. But as we are now, the idea is to basically get this high quality magnetite vanadium concentrate and be in a position to sell that. And it makes sense if we've completed the metallurgy to get it to flakes or electrolyte at the same time. And then we are really a world player.
Yeah. So with the Finland assets that you mentioned, the 2 vanadium plays, there's been a previous JORC inferred resource. Do you have any idea of what sort of amount is in that inferred figure?
168 million tons between the 2.
Okay, so so what sort of
and 45 of it in Sweden and the balance in Finland.
So it's a pretty large, decent scale project, this one.
Oh, and absolutely open ended. We did. I mean, we spent money on private money on geophysics as well, and prior to being listed. And so both of the projects are open ended. But the biggest put hundreds of millions, if you like, to the MPV, and the bottom line is essentially to increase that mass pull. And I don't really care whether we improve the grade, because the grade's good. but the more we can recover, the better it gets. And so that will be the initial thrust for the metallurgy.
So, Colin, tell me a little bit about the use of the vanadium, because I'm very intrigued about. I mean, basically, these aren't batteries that you're going to put in your phone or in some small device. I mean, these are huge things.
These are big, not necessarily huge either. About the size of a motor car, about the size of a little substation you might see. And then, if you can imagine banks and banks of solar cells, at the end of each bank, you've got one of these redox batteries, as Phil was talking about there, and that stores the energy from the battery, from the solar cells, from the fleet of solar cells. And likewise, each a herd or a group of wind turbines might go to the same storage battery, or each one might have its own.
So this is fundamentally the end use. Vanadium is a very light metal that has incredible storage ability. So in other words, it doesn't lose its ability to store electricity. Is that fair to say?
No, well, it stores electricity, always has done, and and they've now designed this redox flow battery. In terms of strength, vanadium basically improves the strength of steel and makes it lighter. So you can improve strength and lighten as well. That again is coming into tomorrow's motor car.
Okay, so it will be in the EV vehicles as well as the
oh yes, indeed, yeah. Make them 35 to 50. Makes them a lot lighter, and of course, lightness is going to work for us all.
So, in terms of time scales, what are we talking about in terms of being able to actually get to production? Because I take it, we have the resource. The resource is a given.
Yeah, well, essentially, we're going to get the final route. We're going to get off-take partners. We're hopefully going to be able to deal directly with the industry, with the off-taker. And we're starting with the metallurgy as we guys are sitting now. And we'll be doing that in Perth, Australia. So that's as you say, imminent. And then as for the nickel, we'll be drilling the extensions of Stormia in the short-term future. So we're straight into it, increasing the resources of the nickel and finalizing the metallurgical route for the vanadium.
And in terms of vanadium, what sort of level of production, if you're talking about 168 million tons in total?
Okay, first of all, let's get the route right. As you quite rightly said, we've got a big resource. So let's get the route right first, and then the resource is big. And then, of course, once we've finalized our end users, that'll dictate what size of plant that we finally install. So it'd be too early to say that, Kevin.
And then obviously nickel and copper, as you are the copper man, ultimately, this is good to see that this still has some copper in it in terms of the
yes,
copper.
well, the nickel has copper in association. As I say, if the nickel's running at about 1.2, then you'll find the copper is generally about 0.4. If the nickel's 0.8, the copper's running at 0.2, 0.3, that sort of ratio. And in a couple of occasions with cobalt, which is, minor values of cobalt, but nonetheless, cobalt.
So, I mean, the copper will not be insignificant then in terms of that. I mean, obviously, a quarter of them.
Oh, good luck. No, and we'll be producing a copper nickel concentrate, or we can separate the metals. So it just adds to the value of the rock, if you like.
So there's a huge amount of resource here, and we've got a market cap of what did we come to the market with?
About 7.5. We kicked off at, yeah.
Okay, and obviously in terms of the potential here, that seems extremely conservative.
Oh, the nickel, it's extremely conservative, and I'm actually more turned on with one of the projects, which is showing a propensity, extremely wide runs of nickel at quite good, 0.78, 0.8, and as I say, 0.3, 0.4 copper. And you're looking in one particular case of high as 113, 115 meters, and with the average being about 50 or 60. So big runs, good grades, copper and nickel in association.
That sounds extremely interesting anyway. Obviously, as you say, in big runs, it's going to be easier to mine. And obviously,
you've got it. That's exactly. And you're in the right part of the world, because in Sweden and Norway, they've got these jumbos, they've got the mechanized equipment. So you look in there when you've got something really thick, you take a top slice, you bolt it, then you get a bench behind, push the first bench forward, follow up with a second bench and a third bench and a fourth bench. So what you're doing is actually, in fact, you secure your roof and then bench away from it. So this is not 200 or 300 men down the mine drilling jackhammers. This is a couple of jumbos, double rig jumbos, bolting the top, and then when you bolted the top, you bench away from it. So it's a very easy system of mining, highly productive, and capital intensive, not labor intensive.
Yeah, now I understand what you mean when you bolt the roof, because we were in the coal mine there in West Virginia, and they'd bolted all the roof, and we were looking at all the bolts as we were going along because it was only 4 foot deep, the seam. So I'm right with you there in terms of knowing what you're talking about. And
what you've got to remember, when you bolt, you're not actually anchoring. People get the idea sometimes that you're anchoring. Sometimes it's like plywood, that the individual components of a piece of plywood, 5 lots, each individual piece, what makes up the plywood isn't that strong. You could bend it and break it. But when you bond it all together, it's tremendously strong and resilient. And that's the principle behind resin bolting, so they don't normally roof bolt in these mines, they resin bond and put rebars in. And so you're actually very, very safe for the workers.
Good. Should we just go through the listing just for listeners? So obviously listed, as I say, on the 6th of May. So that was last week. It's on the main market standard list. The ticker is Ken, as in Barbie and Ken. KEN. You had a successful fundraise of 3.25 million at 3.5p. I think it's around about 3.125 or 3.2 to buy. So, not far off the IPO. And as we've already said, the proceeds of the fundraise will be used to undertake the exploration and development expenditure of the project and provide working capital to cover the, normal administrative costs. So we wish you all the luck with it, Colin. I'm sure it'll be a success. Colin Bird, Executive Chairman of Kendrick Resources, we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Phil. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks a lot, Colin.
This podcast was brought to you by Roast PR Limited. If you would like to appear on a future episode of The Sunday Roast, please email admin@thesundayroast.net.